Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. This is confirmation that the new zombies map, Firebase Z, is actually coming out earlier than expected. It was leaked to be coming around the 15th of February, but actually it's going to be on the 4th of February, which is fantastic news. And the Firebase Z name was leaked like 6 months ago, or even more actually at this point, maybe like 9 months ago, but it's now been confirmed as the official map name as opposed to Outpost 25, which was on all of the teaser info that they gave us earlier this week. Now, the map description is: with the destruction of the World War II era Project End Station site after investigating the otherworldly Dark Ether anomaly in Poland, Requiem now sets its focus on the latest Dark Ether outbreak site, Outpost 25, known by the codename Firebase Z. We've got plenty more in store and can't wait to share in the coming weeks, Treyarch say, so stay tuned. So we're going to be getting more info about this map this week, next week, and probably every week up to launch, which is really exciting. Should be a nice and hype marketing campaign for it. And Cranked is also coming out today, as well as Onslaught on Raid and support for the new Wakizashi sword in the Zombies mode. So that's all good news for Zombies fans. They also mentioned that we should keep an eye out for other intel out there, so they may be dropping more Season 1 intel in some way. There's another image that they've added for us, which is kind of intel-y feeling, I suppose, which says, new Omega teleportation system connects village to Omega facility. And my prediction with this is that this teleporter, which, by the way, looks like something straight out of Beast from Beyond, is basically going to be the fast travel system on the map that is going to connect us between two really kind of distinct areas, I think. The village and the Omega facility are not something that I would expect to be right next to each other, because they would probably want the Omega facility to be somewhere out of the way, somewhere kind of hidden, a little bit enclosed and out of the public eye, if you will. But the village, obviously, is going to have villagers in it and all that sort of thing. So clearly both sites have been overrun, but I reckon there is going to be some separation between the two, and as such, we might be seeing a really interesting new kind of map design here, where we do have two distinct areas, and they're connected by this kind of main link in the center, but they could, kind of geographically speaking, be actually quite distinct from one another, and I expect that we would see quite different designs for those spaces as well. The village, again, is going to be lived in. It's going to be somewhere where civilians and people are going about their daily lives, whereas the Omega facility is going to be much more military, much more kind of Russian, sneaky business, all that sort of stuff. Lots of electronics and radios and spying equipment and all that sort of stuff that you'd expect from something like this. And of course, plenty of experiments and all that good stuff too. We have already seen, for example, Dr. Pecks Bedroom, and I know straight away people were saying it's the bedroom from Der Eisendrache, and so we're going to be getting like a DE part of this map, and I know it's the same bed model, but Treyarch reuses models like that a lot because it's just a generic bed that they've made. There's nothing specifically zombie-like about the bed itself, unlike something like the Flogger, which was clearly made for the zombies mode to flog zombies. But the fact that they've reused the model here is not, in my mind, an instant sort of assume that DE is going to be in the map kind of indicator, but I would say that it's an interesting kind of spot, so congrats to you if you did notice that the bed model is literally being reused here, but I would hold our horses just yet on the DE speculation. However, I do think that there are a lot of links that we're going to be making between this map and Shi no Numa. Now, this is no surprise. This is nothing really new. We've known that Shi no Numa has some kind of relevance to Cold War zombies, seeing as in the campaign on launch, people started finding assets from Shi no Numa that seemed to be making a reappearance, such as a doctor's quarters sign, and I was talking to JC yesterday, and he even said that he'd seen a flogger in the campaign. Now, one other place that you can find flogger-like traps and stuff like that in Cold War is in Dead Ops. Like, these assets have been built, they've been constructed, and as such, it would make sense to me for those to be then repurposed into stuff that can actually be used in zombies. And what we've now seen is that Dr. Peck's bedroom is being referred to as the Doctor's quarters. It's Dr. Peck's quarters, that's what it says. This is a direct reference, I feel like, to Shi no Numa. There's other Shi no Numa bits and pieces that are kind of giving us that flavor as well, and so it poses the question, is this going to be a map that is based somehow on the Shi no Numa layout, just like how D Machine is based on the Nachron Toten layout? I would predict that it's actually not going to be. I've just kind of got a feeling, seeing as we've had little teasers of things like rough map layouts and stuff like that, that this might actually be something distinct. And also bear in mind, if we've got this teleport system going to two different separate areas, we could absolutely have kind of both cases play out, sort of like we did in D Machine, where there's the old bit of the map and then there's the new bit of the map. You also see that in Blood of the Dead. There's the old kind of chunk and the new kind of chunk. Maybe here we're going to end up with a system where there's kind of Shinonuma buildings and things like that, but then those connect via the teleportation system to an entirely new distinct area. Maybe that's where all the lab equipment is. That's where all the sort of research is being done, the bedroom, stuff like that. There's certainly nowhere on Shinonuma that instantly stands out as a nicely decorated bedroom like we've seen in Dr. Peck's quarters. So I think that there are some clear differences here, which is exciting and is pushing me towards the idea that maybe this isn't just going to be based on Shino and is in fact actually kind of its own thing, which would be amazing. We should be getting a trailer very soon, but I've talked enough about all that stuff. We have to talk about the Chungus. It has to be done, okay? We've got gas mask zombies. We've got zombies that look like they could be out of Shinonuma or honestly out of like an Ascension or something like that as well. But then we have just this boy. Whose man is this? Does anyone know? I'm honestly really intrigued because clearly it's the head of Margwa. Like, there is just no doubt about that. That is a Margwa's head that is plopped on top of something else's body. It doesn't really look like the giant distant monster that we've been seeing in the D Machine kind of forest. That looks like something that is distinct from this, but I mean, it's got kind of big, spooky claw arms. It has 3 fingers, just like Keepers did back in the day. And it also has those kind of spikes coming off its back like we saw with Margwas back in the day as well. Remember they had those kind of spikes on their backside? It's a really interesting design. It's a blend, I guess, between human and Dark Ether, which I think could be the actual setup for the story as we begin to go through these maps now. We've seen human transformed into zombie-like creature by radiation and stuff like that mixed with the Dark Ether, with the Megatons. Now, are we going to see the Russians seeing the creation of the Megatons, seeing the Der Wechsel machine, for example, bringing them back, the Changer, right? And are they going to then take that idea and expand it in this Vietnam facility and say, okay, what happens if we actually try and infuse those creations with the essence of the Dark Ether itself? This Exo Element 1 that they've basically been using as a new name for 115 from the previous Ether or Light Ether storyline. Maybe that's what's going on here. They've actually directly tried to channel the Dark Ether into these individuals, and as such, they've kind of mutated into these weird beasts. We do also know that there are people that are trapped in the Dark Ether that experience these kinds of transformations themselves, and the really interesting thing is that they actually somewhat retain their humanity while it's happening. Mentally, they still feel like themselves for the most part, but the transformation happens to their skin. They start to get scaly. They start to grow these weird protrusions like we're seeing from this. I want to call it a Margwa, but it's not a Margwa. What do we think it's going to be called, guys? Let me know in the comments down below. That process does happen to people in the Dark Ether. So honestly, this could just be a natural phenomenon from the fact that people have gone to the Dark Ether and then got stuck there, and maybe they are now leaking back out of the Dark Ether. And hell, these things could talk to us. Like, that would be incredible if we were getting chased around, just like the Megatons that are saying, like, we will reconstruct this world for our own. We are the many and you are the few. Like, all of this sort of weird Russian rhetoric. It would be so funny to me if these Margwas started coming out of portals and, like, they don't realize that in the present world, it's all moved on from that past Light Ether story, and so they're still out here like, we will support the Shadow Man in everything he does. like, Chief, Shadow Man's long gone at this point, dude. We're on a new story now, but they might not even know it because, like we've said before, time works differently in the Dark Ether. And this is something that I actually predicted when we first saw the intro cutscene for this map, before we got any, for D Machine, not this map, before we got any intel or anything talking about any kind of temporal anomalies or anything at all. I was saying that it's totally possible that Treyarch would be playing with the idea that, relatively speaking, time runs at a different rate within the Dark Ether because of Samantha's age in this new map. And it seems like that is exactly what might have gone on. And it's just really cool that they are taking on those kinds of ideas and experimenting with some interesting kind of physicsy kind of results, I suppose, in order to create the story that we've got right now. So I'm really excited for this map. I'm really excited for the teaser campaign as well. Really going to be cool to see what Treyarch have up their sleeves in the next couple of weeks. Let me know what you think the name of this Chungus is, though, guys. Like, can we name him pre-launch? And if so, what's his name going to be? Leave a comment, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.